Hello, in this point in the class period, you should have gone over the warm-up with the sub. So now what I need you to do is take out your pink unit organizer for chemical bonding, and we're going to add the activity in slot 7 and the note sheet in slot 8. So you should pause the video and write that down. The sub should have handed out the ion in a bag activity sheet. And what this activity is about is finding the charge of an ion. Now this activity is really similar to the atom in a bag activity we had last unit. In fact, it's the exact same setup, except now we have different atoms with different amounts of subatomic particles. So if we look at our bag activity, it says directions. Count the colored beads in the small Ziploc bags and then determine the charge of its ion. Count the beads first, then fill in the chart. So I'm going to go through a model with you, and I know you're going to be really tempted to pause the video and just write down what I wrote down, but you should listen to the explanations. You should watch the entire thing. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down the element symbol under the blank space down here. This is our teacher example. And before we determine the atomic number, we're going to count the number of protons, the pink beads, the number of neutrons, the blue beads, and the number of electrons, which are the green beads. So my pink beads represent the protons, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pink beads, so I have 7 protons. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blue beads, so I have 7 neutrons. Now my electrons are the green beads, and in the bags they're extremely small, so you're going to have to kind of put the bag on the table and shake it a little bit without opening it. Please do not open the small bags because I will be very sad if there are beads all over the floor when I get back. So when I count my electrons, I'm going to be really careful and look for them. I would do a triple check for this one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 green beads. So I have 10 electrons. Now hold on, you might be saying. In an atom, aren't the protons and electrons the same? Yeah, sure, if it was a neutral atom. But we're dealing with ions, which means they have a charge. So let's determine the charge of this nitrogen atom. So I have 7 positive protons, and I'm going to add my 10 negative electrons. Remember, protons are positive, that positive, and electrons are negative. So if I have 7 plus negative 10, that's like 7 minus 10, which is equal to negative 3. So I've just determined the charge of my ion. It's negative 3. But now I need to write it as a superscript after the element symbol. So I have N as my symbol, the negative 3 in the upper right-hand corner. Now this should look familiar because nitrogen has 5 valence electrons based on its group number, which is number 15. So we learned last week that nitrogen is either going to want to get rid of the 5 valence electrons it already has or gain 3 more negative electrons in order to have a full, stable outer valence shell. Now, elements are like teenagers. They're going to take the least complicated route. So he's going to gain 3 negative electrons to make that full valence shell. So that's why his charge is negative 3. Our next step is to determine if it's a cation, which are positive, an anion, which is negative, or a neutral atom. Now because my superscript or my oxidation number is negative 3, that means the ion is negative, so he's an anion. There's one more box we have to fill in before we move on to our next baggie, and that's our atomic number. Now we have to remember from the last unit that the atomic number is the number of which subatomic particle? The proton. So we're going to look at the number of protons, or pink beads, and we had 7 of them, so the atomic number of nitrogen is also 7. Now in your group of your choice with a maximum of 4 people, you're going to complete the other 6 elements in the bag. Remember, please do not open the small Ziploc bags. After you do the activity, you're going to answer the 4 check for understanding questions at the bottom of the first page. Then, before you come back up to the front, there is an activity on the back that's paper-based that you'll do on the back. When you've completed both sides of the sheet, then you can come up to the front and check your answers. If you have any questions, you should feel free to ask your sub or your classmates. If you really have any questions, staff email is working again, so you can email me.